All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Inside Leather History, a fireside chat. I'm Doug O'Keefe. I am the host and the producer of the chats, which are a program of the Leather Archives and Museum. Today, I'm sitting down with Graham Clark, who is in Australia. He is a leatherman, a title holder, and an author, a new author, let's put it that way. So, Graham, tell me a little bit. I'd like to start off with a little bit of demographic information. Tell me a little bit about where you're from and how was your family and growing up?
Okay, so I was born in the UK um, many, many years ago. I won't say exactly when.
Mm,
Came to Australia with my brother and my parents when I was almost 9 years old and have lived in Australia ever since. Um, and in terms of my family in Australia, uh, here and now, my parents are no longer with us, but I do have a brother living in Queensland and his wife and their kids and so on. So, I don't have a close family around me here in Victoria, but yeah, I've got some family members in Queensland and also some family members who I do hear from now and then back in the UK, surprisingly enough. Yeah.
Now, was your family, this is a phrase I learned when I was in Australia some years ago. Was your family 10-pound palms?
Correct. Yes.
Ah,
We came here in 1972, I think it was,
okay.
um, August 1972 from memory, on a Boeing 737, I think it was.
Aye.
Um, Mostly the 10-pound palm people came across on cruise liners. So
Oh,
there were some, however, that came across on, Qantas flights. So
okay.
that's what we did. My parents decided they wanted a better life for themselves and their children. Um, and my grandmother, my mother's mother, had just passed away, and they thought perfect opportunity to make the move. And they were trying to decide whether or not to move to Canada or Australia.
Okay.
And in the end, they decided upon Australia. In some ways, I regret that decision of theirs, only because it costs so much money to fly from Australia anywhere else. The only place that's really easy for us to get to is Bali,
Yeah.
which Bali, there's not a lot of leather in Bali.
Very tropical climate.
And
Yeah.
also Auckland in New Zealand.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't regret living in Australia, but I'm just saying that Australia, it's a beautiful country, but it really is quite isolated. And in terms of traveling from, say, Melbourne to Rome, it takes so long and it
Mm,
costs a lot of money.
mm,
Like it's
mhm.
about 23 hours, I think, the flight.
Oh yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's not the time so much as the actual cost.
Yeah.
It costs like all of those guys that went to IML this year from Australia. I've been following them on social media. They would have paid a lot of money for their airfares.
Sure. Sure.
Granted, some of them might have been sponsored by some of the venues like the Laird Hotel, etc. Even so,
Yeah.
they would have easily spent $10,000 plus,
Yeah.
getting over to Chicago, going out to the bars,
Getting the new
sightseeing,
outfits for IML. Yeah.
new leather outfits for IML, exactly.
Yeah.
Because as you and I both know, leather is not cheap.
All right.
Or if you do get cheap leather, normally it becomes moldy after like a year or two and you've got to throw it out.
It depends. I mean, yeah, well, the cheaper the worse quality, of course. Yeah.
Yeah,
But like I try to keep mine put away correctly so that it doesn't disintegrate. Yeah.
absolutely. And I live in Melbourne. It doesn't get humid here very often. So yeah, I can just chuck the leather in the cupboard, put it on a hanger and just
Hmm.
not worry about it.
Mm,
Whereas
yeah.
if I was living in Queensland, for example, Queensland, it gets very humid.
Mm,
So I'd have to be really careful.
yeah. Yeah.
And I know a leather guy who lives in Queensland who had to throw away some of his leather because he
Hmm.
tried his best, but it just got mold on it. He just kept
Oh.
coming back. And yeah, I mean, what can you do? I mean,
Um,
if you're into leather and you live in a tropical area, I can only imagine how difficult it is for leather men who live in Florida.
oh yeah.
I
Yeah.
see those leather men,
Yeah.
wearing their leather, and I'm thinking they must be buying new leather on a regular basis.
It all depends, of course, how much you keep your home air conditioned. That'll help,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know. But it's very interesting getting to know you minimally, at least a little now. In 2019, I came to Australia to do a whole series, ultimately 13 interviews. Interesting, you didn't come up in the list then.
Look, I was out there. I mean, I was going to the Laird Hotel regularly,
Hmm.
especially on a Thursday night for spit and polish, which
Oh,
is,
sure. Yeah.
leather and fetish.
Mhm.
So maybe, it's just one of those things. Our paths didn't cross. I'm sure we would have friends in common. I know that you know Damien Simpson, for example.
Yes.
But yeah, look, Australia is a big country. So,
Yeah.
when you were here, maybe I was, interstate for some reason. Who knows?
Yeah, I don't know, but
You
yeah.
were here in the summer, is that right?
I was there like October into November that year.
Right. Okay. So that was
So
our spring,
yeah, yeah.
right? I
Yeah.
see. The thing is, unless I saw your social media on, Instagram or Facebook, I'm not likely to know about you.
Yeah.
Nothing personal.
Ah, ah. Well,
And that's another thing as well. In terms of living in Australia, there's so much goes on in the US and Europe that we don't know about. Like
yeah.
I've been kind of tapping into a lot of that recently. I've joined the IML group on Facebook
Hmm.
and a few other leather groups on Facebook as well, just to see what's happening elsewhere.
Yeah.
And there's all this stuff goes on, in Europe and the US that we never hear about over here.
Yeah.
And probably vice versa. There's probably stuff happening here now and then that you don't know about.
Right. Right.
So
It would not make the local press.
absolutely,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, because we've got a small population, capital cities, I think we've got five of them. I mean, you've got major cities in the UK, you've probably got about 15 or 20 of them. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, look, and we've also got AWOL, as you probably know, in August, a week of leather.
Ah,
So
yes. Hmm.
that's probably the only thing that Melbourne is known for.
Ah,
Sometimes I hear people on social media talking about, various leather events around the world, and that will get mentioned, as well as Sydney Leather Pride.
sure. That, of course.
They're
Yes.
the two that get mentioned regularly.
There are so many people I know who've, one, been to Sydney Leather Pride, or two, want to go to Sydney Leather Pride. And all I hear is how much great fun they had. And I'm like, oh, damn. I haven't been able to
Yeah,
go
I
yet.
mean, Sydney, I live in Melbourne, but I don't go to Sydney very often, but when I do, it's always so much fun.
Uh,
Uh, yeah, I mean, Sydney is a great city, and they've
yeah.
got a leather, what do they call it, an eagle bar in Sydney as well. It's like a
Hmm.
pop-up eagle bar. So
Yeah, such as it is. Yeah.
yeah, I don't think it's all year round, but
Yeah.
it's very, very well attended, obviously, around Mardi Gras
Yeah, sure.
in
Of course it would be. Yeah.
February, early March,
Yeah.
um, which we don't have in Melbourne. We've just got, when it comes to leather, the home of leather is really the Laird Hotel.
Yeah.
And when I say leather, I mean leather and kink.
Yeah.
I tried to do that in my book, by the way. Instead of just saying leather,
Mhm.
I say leather and kink,
Yes.
rather than leather and fetish, because
Yeah.
fetish and kink are not exactly the same thing.
No.
Uh,
No.
Kink, I think, is included in fetish, in my opinion.
Yes. Yes. It can be.
So I did, I gave that a lot of thought actually when I was putting the book together. I thought, do I just say leather parties or do I say leather and kink parties or leather and fetish parties? So we were really getting down to the semantics. And
Yeah.
that's
Leather
why
fetish. Yeah. I
I
was,
just, the research that I did online, apparently leather and fetish is a bit dated nowadays. Mostly a lot of organizations will say leather and kink.
uh,
Um,
more
so I
generic. Yeah.
okay, considering the demographic that I'm going for,
Yeah.
a younger demographic, in their 40s and 50s, 30s, 40s and 50s, then yeah, probably I should say leather and kink rather than leather and fetish.
But before we get too carried away in the book and all of that, tell me a little bit more. How did you come out?
Um, I moved to Melbourne in January 1986, having moved from the UK when we came over. We lived in Queensland for many years, so I was there from about the age of just before 9 until 21,
Okay.
and then in my mind, I wanted to move somewhere where there was a bit more freedom because Queensland, it was a bit conservative, and
Yes,
I
I can
wanted
see.
to move somewhere where it was, politically less conservative. And I obviously looked at Sydney and Melbourne, and I just thought Melbourne sounds like more my style. It's a bit more European because I like European leather,
Yeah,
probably a little bit more than I do like what I call American leather.
they are different.
Take
It's
that
true.
personally, but I just think they make leather look so stylish. Like, some of the guys that whose profiles I check out on social media, they're wearing all these different outfits, and I'm
Yeah,
thinking, my God, they must have a spare room that's absolutely chock-a-block full of leather, but they look stunning. Like, they
yeah,
really make an effort. Some of these leather men over in Europe. I'm
yeah.
not saying that there aren't leather men in the US that do that. I'm sure there are, but it just seems to me that European leather is a little bit different to American leather.
Yes, it
It's a bit
is.
more
Mhm.
upmarket, I suppose you would call it. And in
Yeah.
terms of that whole full bluff, like
Mm.
that what I call full bluff, high cow, whatever you want to call it,
Yes,
you see a lot more of that in Europe than you do in the US.
yes. I'll tell you, visiting Berlin for the first time as a Leatherman I was taken aback. I wore what I would consider formal leathers in the US, but I was the poor country cousin that had turned up in Berlin because my stuff was nothing by comparison.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I had a friend who went to Easter Berlin last year, I think it was,
Hmm.
and he felt, yeah, like he was underprepared for
Yeah.
what he saw in terms of what they were wearing. He thought he brought all of the leather that he needed, but then in the end, he thought, oh, I think I might need to buy some more pieces.
Let me tell you, I've been there, done that. Yeah. Yeah, they are very serious about it. They're very model about it. So yeah,
Yeah, I think when you say they're very serious, I think they're also a little bit more conservative when it comes to leather as well, as opposed
possibly.
to the US. Because I know that the recent IML, which was won by Honey Davenport,
Yes.
um, I know that there's been a bit of a kerfuffle, and I
Um,
know that we don't want to go into politics too much, but I know that there's a particular a leather influencer in Europe who
mhm.
got himself into a bit of trouble because he said that it was drag, not leather, blah blah blah. So
Yeah.
old school leather. You've got that in Europe and also in North America. But
Yeah.
I think you're right. I think they take it a bit more seriously in Europe. But
Yeah,
I
they
think when
do.
it comes to actually wearing leather, they are a little bit more conservative in Europe than they are in the US.
It's possible. Yeah, I think it really just depends on the circumstances. But yeah, I
Yeah,
would say. Now,
yeah,
tell me about, so you moved to Melbourne. You were finding your way around. Now, how did you become aware of the whole leather fetish community?
Um, there was a magazine that you could buy in Melbourne, which I came across purely by accident in a news agency. I think it was called Outrage,
Huh.
and they had a listing. I think it might have been on the inside back cover or something like that. I remember when I came across it, it was covered in plastic, so I couldn't
Oh,
open it.
yes. Yeah.
I had to buy it. But, there was a young guy on the front cover who, he was handsome, but he wasn't exactly my thing. At that stage, I didn't really know what my thing was, but, he was cute. So I ended up buying this magazine and, ripped the plastic covering off, looked through it, and there was a listing of venues in Melbourne.
Hmm.
And also, I think they had a listing for Sydney as well.
Cool.
So,
Yeah.
they were
Yeah.
doing the main cities in Australia. Um, and they also um, had information, about gay-friendly dentists and gay-friendly doctors and solicitors, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So
Good.
I ended up taking out a subscription with this particular magazine. So I read it regularly for a while, and I just decided to check out the venues that were on offer. So I literally went to every single one of them at least once,
Okay.
and that was when, drum roll, da-na-na-na,
Mhm.
I went to the Laird Hotel one night.
Okay.
That's how it all started. That was
Yeah.
an accident, actually. I was with someone. We'd been somewhere else. We went to another venue that we went to regularly, and it was a quiet night at this particular venue for some reason. And my friend suggested, he said to me, quote unquote, he said, "Oh, it's boring here tonight.
Uh,
How about we go to the Laird Hotel?" And at that stage, I had never even heard of the Laird Hotel.
uh, yeah.
It might have been in that magazine, but I don't remember seeing it in there. Maybe I missed it. But I said to my friend, the Laird Hotel, I've never heard of it. And I said, like, well, where is it? And he said, oh, it's not far from here. We can just jump in a cab and, be there in no time. And that's how it all started. I came here, I saw men in leather. At that stage, I didn't know that it was leather. I just noticed that they were wearing black. And it was only when I got a bit closer, when I went to the bar, I kind of, not stalked them. I visually stalked them, and I'm like, oh, I think they're wearing leather.
But that was just to clarify the Laird Hotel. I mean, it is sort of a hotel, but it's
Yep.
a big gay bar on the ground
It
floor.
is.
Yeah.
It's not just leather. So
Yeah.
it's leather, it's kink, it's rubber, it's the
Yeah.
bears. So it's not just a leather bar,
Yeah.
and it's that's because obviously we don't have the population to support a leather bar, or at least
Yeah.
we didn't. Now that Melbourne's population is over 5 million,
Oh, wow. Okay.
so
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, maybe it'll happen in the near future. I don't know, but yeah, in
Great.
the Lake Hotel when I went there, it was just a bar for masculine men. And
Okay.
sometimes some of the men that went there would be wearing check shirts and denim jackets. Lots of denim. Some would be wearing leather combined with denim, which was a really good look, and
Yeah.
country and western boots. Because country and western was popular here for a while. We had boot scooting,
Yeah.
1980s in Melbourne, and I went to that once or twice, and some of those guys were wearing the cowboy hats and
Yeah.
going yeehaw and all that kind of
Ah,
stuff.
yeah.
Um, so yeah, the Lead Hotel, I think it had started in like 1983.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
so they've been around for a while, and they're still going strong. Yeah, I went there for the first time. Like I said, I arrived in Melbourne in January '86. I think I probably went there maybe 6 or 7 months later because
Oh,
it
okay.
took me a while to settle in, find a place to live, find a job,
Hmm.
get to
Hmm.
know a few people. And yeah, like I said, that night, that fateful night we went there, that was it. It was like I had an epiphany, you know.
Ah, good, good. But it's also you got your first pair of leather chaps at around this time, did you not?
Yeah, I started going to the Laird after being going there for the first time. Like I said, oh, I don't know, uh, September, October 1986.
Hmm.
Um, and then I was around men who were into leather, and it appealed to me, but I was a bit nervous because I was a twink. It's like, like when the very first time that I went to the Laird, I was skinny. Um, I had no facial hair.
Hmm. Hmm.
I did not look like a Leatherman or a curious Kingster, whatever you want to call it. I looked like a twink. So I had to change my look. I grew a mustache, and I started dressing a bit more masculine, I suppose you would call it. Bought a few check shirts, that kind of thing. Um, and I think I bought my first piece of leather probably in about 1988, 89,
Okay.
which was when I bought my chaps and a mule cap. But yeah, up until then, I'd been going to the Laird, not in leather, but in, denim, like
Ah, ah,
masculine denim, I suppose you'd call it,
yeah,
denim jacket, all that kind of stuff.
yeah. There's a
So
lot of
I
overlap. Yeah.
Yeah, I was slowly but surely changing my look. And then, yeah, it all kind of happened 88, 89 when I went to Laurie Lane's Leather Lounge, I think it was called, and had a pair of chaps that I commissioned him to make because he
Hmm.
made them himself. He didn't bring them over from, Europe like they do nowadays with Mr. B
Yeah.
leather, Mr. S, and all that. So he made them, and I had to wait for him to finish. I think he was pretty busy at the time. It took him something like 3 or 4 weeks,
Oh,
and then he called me in, rang me up. I came in, tried them on, and I was just so happy with them. You know, I felt like a superhero. It was like I was watching a Marvel
wow.
movie.
Wow.
I just, I remember putting my hands on them, the smoothness. They felt, cool to the touch, and it was smooth. And I think I went home and had a wank, basically. Am I
Wow.
allowed to say
Yeah,
that?
you just did.
I think I think I took them home and yeah, put them back on at that stage because I think I got home on public transport. Took them home, put them on, had a wank. Yeah, it was great, and I
Funny.
couldn't wait to wear them out. So yeah, it was
Tell me
good.
about the first time you did.
I'm pretty sure it was the Laird, like I said, on the Thursday night. So I've got a feeling I picked them up on the weekend, like on a Saturday afternoon kind of thing.
Hmm.
So I probably went to the Laird the following Thursday because Saturday night at the Laird, it's not really leather.
Yeah.
Um, but I know the first time I wore them, I just felt like I was a different person, like a new version of myself. Um, I just felt so confident, so sexy. I mean, I
Wow.
just felt like I could change the world. And I had more confidence in terms of, talking to other guys because I felt like I belonged. Up until then,
Yeah.
I'd still felt like an outsider. I was changing the way that I looked, um, and trying to become one of the leather men there, or pseudo leather men, whatever you want to call it. And I was getting there slowly but surely. But it was still a bit of a struggle because I was trying to make friends,
Yeah.
and because I didn't have any leather at that stage, I wasn't doing so well. But as soon as I started to wear some leather, that's when I started to make friends.
Fascinating. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, maybe there's a bit of snobbery there, I guess, or maybe you're not part of our little group, or I don't know what it is, but
Yeah. Could be.
for a while there, for a good year and a half, I'm like, is there something wrong with me? It's like, you know, I just thought I'm a nice person, you know.
Hmm.
Um, so anyway, it just took a while, that's all. I mean, sometimes some cities are like that. I think
Yes.
Melbourne, is one of those cities where it can take time to get to know people
Hmm.
because you're an outsider. But I think that's
Yeah.
changed. I mean, Melbourne was a bit kind of parochial in the 1980s,
Oh, wow.
whereas
Okay.
now it's a big city. It's over
Yeah.
5 million. We get lots of international travelers coming here. Whereas back then, Sydney was an international city, absolutely. But I don't think Melbourne was, because our
Oh,
population
oh,
was, I think it was just less than 3 million. It was like 2.7 or
oh,
2.8, something like that.
oh. Wild.
Yeah.
But apparently, your confidence must have really soared because you actually won a title. Tell me about that.
That was an accident. It's like
Okay.
uh, I I went to Adelaide for a long weekend,
Yes.
and there was a guy over there that I was dating. So he would come to Melbourne from time to time, and we'd go out to leather parties here, um, and sometimes I would go to Adelaide. So on
Yeah.
this particular occasion, I went to Adelaide for the weekend and caught up with Greg, his name was, and we went dancing somewhere in Leather. There was a dance bar in Adelaide that we went to. It wasn't specifically a leather dance bar, but we thought we would wear some leather. And from memory, I'm pretty sure I wore my chaps and I wore the mule cap that I bought when I bought the chaps from
Oh,
Laurie Lane.
yeah.
And yeah, I had no idea there was an actual leather competition on. And, some guy just came up to me on the dance floor, like literally tapped me on the back. And then he said, hi, my name's whatever. I'm from and I think he said the Southern Regions Motorcycle Club. I've
Hmm.
never actually been
Okay.
able to confirm that, but it definitely had Motorcycle Club at the end of it. So anyway,
Hmm.
so he said where he was from, and he's like, we're holding a competition for Mr. Leather here tonight, and we were just wondering if you would like to enter.
Wow.
And I was like blown away, like, because I'd only recently started wearing the chaps and the mule cap, and I thought, wow, okay. It's like what? And I said to the guy, what do I need to do? And he just said to me, quote unquote, he said, you don't need to do anything, just keep doing what you're doing now. It's like,
Wow. Wow.
okay. And all I was doing was just dancing with my partner Greg. So.
Wild.
Um, and then, yeah, I won the competition. I got a medallion. If you remember, I said to you, I still have that medallion, but it's downstairs in storage.
Mm.
And I cannot for the life of me remember which particular box I've put it in because I'm well known for putting boxes within boxes within boxes. So
Mm.
it's there somewhere. I know that I haven't thrown it out. But
Mm.
yeah, and I remember it said on the front, regular medallion. On the front, it said Mr. Leather 1990 or 1991.
Wild.
And then on the back, it had Southern Regions Motorcycle Club, whatever it was.
Wild.
I'll prove it to you one day. I will find it. One day I will go down there, pull out every single box, open them all up, and I'll find it and I'll send a photo of it to you.
You were discovered. I love it. I love it.
I was. And I
But
wasn't trying to be discovered, it was just an accident. Like Greg and I, we had no idea there was a leather comp on that night.
what leathers and kink activities or fetish activities, let's throw the whole thing out there. What among those do you like
What do I like?
or
Okay.
love?
In terms of my own, the things that I like and the things that I don't like, or I'm not that keen on. I like sounding. Big fan of sounding. I've been doing that for years. Um, and also CBT. I like CBT. I was doing that in my teens when I was living in Queensland to myself. So, even back then, when I was like 14, 15 years old, I didn't realize it at the time, but I was already kinky or,
Yeah.
boring. Um,
Hmm.
so yeah, so I like sounding, I like CBT, I like saline infusions. I've done that a few times. That's quite interesting. It feels amazing, and it looks amazing as well. Because some guys they'll have a saline infusion before they go to a dance party.
Uh,
They'll do it so that they look bigger in their jockstrap and so on, or before they go to the gay beach or whatever.
yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Um, I think I've had maybe 4 or 5 saline infusions all up. So, it's not like I've been doing it for many, many, many
Uh,
years. I had my first infusion, I think, about 3 years ago now, with a friend of mine who was practicing, universal precautions and
uh,
who knew what he was doing.
good. Good.
He had the gloves on, all that kind of stuff. So I was very impressed. So yeah, I like sounding, I like saline, CBT, I like, just the usual fucking, being fucked, that kind of thing. Sucking, not into some other things that some other guys like. I know younger leather men nowadays are really into fisting.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's really, there's been a resurgence. I see it everywhere nowadays.
Yeah. That's true.
Sometimes I go somewhere like a sex party or whatever, and I'm like, oh gosh, there's a lot of fisting going on tonight.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't know if you've seen that as well in the US, but here in Australia, I have really noticed in the last 10 years so many young men who aren't necessarily into leather, but just young gay men are into fisting.
Yeah.
So it's not just the leather community.
Right.
I don't have a problem with it. I've tried it. It just didn't do much for me. Um, like I remember, I've got a little story for you here if you want to hear it.
Okay.
I was at the Laird Hotel. This was, I think, the late 80s, early 90s. So, this was me, in the process of becoming a leatherman. I remember there was a guy there one night who was staring at me, but he wasn't staring at my eyes, my face or my chest or whatever. I couldn't
Yeah.
work out what he was staring at. His field of vision. I looked behind me and I thought, what's he staring at? It looks like he's staring at me. And then eventually I thought, is he staring at my hands? And in fact, to cut a long story short, I chatted to him a little bit later. He was staring at my wrists because he
Oh,
liked he was hoping that I would fist him.
got it.
And I have skinny wrists. So, I wasn't surprised, when I thought about it later on. So I'd never done that before. I knew that it was a thing, and it was on my list to try it. But
Yeah.
this guy, I chatted to him. He was a really nice guy. He was a fisting bottom. I don't know whether that's called a fisty. I've got no idea. But anyway,
Yeah. We get the idea. Yeah.
so I thought, you know what, I'm up for it. Let's give it a go. So I fisted him. I think he was staying in the accommodation above the laird from memory.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah.
I I was guided by him. He knew how to do this, whereas I didn't,
Yeah.
and it went really well. He had a great time. I ended up with a sore shoulder, and I got a long way. Like I got down to my elbow. I was shocked. Like, I thought, wow, like I have gone that far into him. That's
Yeah.
scary. Like if I'm not careful here, I could do some damage. So look, I fisted him. That was the one and only time I've ever fisted someone. I did try and fist my partner Greg that I mentioned to you before,
Hmm.
because we on one occasion decided we would try to do this. So I tried fisting him, he tried fisting me. We got close, but it just didn't happen. Um, I would have liked if it had have happened. I wasn't against it, but it just wasn't to be.
Yeah.
And we never got around to trying it another time because there are so many other things that you can do other than
True.
fisting.
Yeah.
So, like, yeah, I fisted a guy once. I've never been fisted. So I'm not exactly into it. It didn't do a lot for me. I know he was having a great time. Um, like I said, I just ended up with a sore shoulder. But I kind of got off on the fact that he was having such a good time. Like I was giving him so much pleasure.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I didn't get hard, I didn't come, but it didn't matter. I still I enjoyed it.
There
If
you
I
go.
met someone tomorrow, who was interested in me and they wanted me to fist them, if they asked me, I would do it. You know,
Cool. Yeah. Enjoy it. Why not? So,
yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. Oh, and now what else? Is there anything else that I'm really interested in? Um, Just the usual. Like I'm not a dom, if you know what I mean. Which is something that comes up on social media all the time. Because of the name that I use, Oz Leather Daddy.
Yeah.
Some young leather men associate being a daddy with being a dom, but they're two different things.
Yes. Yeah. They don't
Like,
know, but they
read
don't know.
my book. My book will explain it to you. It's like, you know,
Um,
you can be a dom and you can also be a daddy.
yeah.
And but like, one if you're a dom, you're not necessarily a daddy, or if you're a daddy, you're not necessarily dom, as in
Right.
dominant.
Right.
So yeah, what I was going to say is I get that all the time on Scruff. I have a Scruff account.
Hmm.
In fact, I'm thinking about closing it down and setting up another account somewhere else because I keep getting these guys that send me messages and it's like, "Hey, daddy." Like,
Yes.
that's all they do. "Hey, daddy," and
Oh,
they unlock their photos.
yeah.
Or, and I know this is something that you flagged when I spoke to you the last time. This is a misconception about me. Okay,
Hmm.
the misconception is that I'm a dom top. It's like
Let's
I'm
save that for the end. Yeah, we want to talk
all
more
right.
about that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. But
But
yeah, so they're the sorts of things that I like to do. I'm pretty easygoing. I'll try most things at least once. I have been flogged probably about 2 years ago. It took me a while to get around to it because I've always been a bit apprehensive. But I was playing with someone, he got the whip out and he said, "Would it be okay if I?" And I thought, yeah, why not? Let's see how this goes. And I enjoyed it.
there you
I,
go.
I didn't think that I would. And so I haven't sorted it out since. But again, if I met someone and they wanted to do that, I would say yes, but I'm a bit of a newbie,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, let them know. Exactly.
And I would do it to someone else. If someone wanted me to flog them, if they had the gear, I know you've got to avoid the kidneys and all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
Um, I would do it. Absolutely. Yeah.
But someone somewhere is exploring all of the leather kink fetish community activities and things, and they're going to see this interview somewhere on YouTube. Now, what advice or guidance can you offer someone new coming into the scene?
I would say take your time, uh, get to know a few people. Um, this is assuming you're in a big city and you've got you know leather and kink bars
Yeah.
near where you live. But yeah, try and get to know a few people. Maybe one of them can be like a mentor to
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
offer you a bit of guidance, but also, do your research. There's no, get onto the internet if you've got access to the internet. Become a member of Bluff, for example. Um, buy books like my own. It's like, you know, finding your leather tribe. So, just but take your time and you know, don't feel the pressure to do something you don't want to do.
That's right.
It's all about consent at the end of the day. So
Right.
if you've if you meet some guy at a bar and he wants to flog you and you're interested, then you need to negotiate.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you need to give your consent, and you need to let him know that you've never done this kind of thing before. So you
Yeah.
know, take your time. Don't rush into it. And don't do it under duress. Don't because he's a hot guy
Yeah.
and you don't want to have this opportunity to make out with him. So yeah, I would say, do your research, go out to bars. Bars are a good starting point. So just go to a bar, check it out, go there a few times, make a decision as to whether or not, it's your kind of thing. Because you might decide in the long run that you don't want to go down the leather path after all.
Yeah.
You might curious, but then once you start looking at it, you might think, no, this is not really what I want to do, actually,
Yeah.
and pull back. So, there's no harm in pulling back.
Well,
Um,
and there is a delineation between leather per se and more SM activities. These can be indigenous,
yeah, and there are some men who wear leather out to the bars who aren't really into kink.
right?
I do meet them now and then.
Yeah.
So I guess you would call them vanilla leather. I don't
I
really
suppose
know,
it,
but
yeah. I mean, I fit somewhere in that, and it's more or less I'm a little bit more personality leather.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I meet guys like that now and then. When you talk to them about what they like to do, and it's like, well, they'll say, well, I like to I'm a top. I like to fuck. I like to be sucked, kind of stuff. And they don't mention any other stuff that
Yeah.
I'm familiar with. And
Mm.
I'm like, okay, so on a scale of kinkiness, I'm probably a little bit more kinky than you are.
It's possible.
But
Sure.
I know other people who are incredibly kinky. They're kind of
Hmm.
scary because
Yeah.
they are interested in so many different kinks, like what some people would call the heavy duty stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm kind of in the
Extreme.
middle. Like, some of the heavy duty stuff, um, I've done some of it and it wasn't for me. But, some of it, like some people say saline infusions, that's heavy duty. And I'm like, no, it's not.
Eh,
All I've got to do is just lie back. I've got
it all,
the
you
the
know,
drink.
it just depends upon your interpretation of these things and
Yeah,
how
but
they fit for
if you're
you.
afraid of needles,
Mhm.
obviously it would be a big thing.
Mhm.
But I'm not afraid of needles. Like when my friend gives me my saline infusion, he'll put a needle on both sides so that it's quicker, because otherwise it just takes forever.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, you're doing the crossword or whatever,
Oh, yeah.
waiting for all the saline to go in. But yeah, look, I would just say, take your time. There's no rush, but see if you can, make some friends and maybe, come to an arrangement with one of them. If
Yeah.
they might want to be your mentor, or they
Yeah.
might want to take you under their wing as their son, so you can do that whole son daddy thing with them. And
Yeah.
this guy, the daddy, might, have be a dominant, or he might be more of a sub himself. I mean, because nowadays you'll have a sub with a sub,
Yeah.
or a sub with a dom, or you'll have a dom with two subs, or
I
two
know.
doms
It
with
gets
three
very
subs.
convoluted.
I know it gets so confusing. It's like, well, hey, I remember I was at the Laird last year, and this sub that I know, he was wearing his chastity cage and everything, and he mentioned his sub, and I'm like, what? You've got a sub, but
Yeah.
you're a sub, and he said, yeah, but we're allowed to, and I'm
Yeah.
like, wow.
Yeah. It's wild.
It
But
is. Yeah,
this year, you published a book, which is
I
our main
did.
one of our main issues today. Now, you published Finding Your Leather Tribe. Now, the book is a fascinating collection of leather, sort of coming of age and growth and exploration stories. Um, and there are what, 22 in the collection? Is that correct?
Three, 23.
23. Okay. And they are from worldwide, which is really amazing. Now, where did the idea come from for you?
Um, July last year, I needed a break from job hunting.
Okay.
I'd been doing that for 6 months, and I felt like I was going down a bit of a rabbit hole mentally. And I remember I was looking for something to read. So I got onto Amazon and, typed a few different things. I think leather was one of them. I thought, oh yeah, like leather fiction, that kind of thing.
Hmm.
Anyway, um, Amazon, in its wisdom, decided, because of its algorithms, whatever, to show me coming out stories. They weren't
Okay.
specifically gay coming out stories, just coming out stories in general. And I clicked on one or two of them and, kind of looked at them. I think one of them I downloaded the sample and had a bit of a read. And I thought, there was no leather in the coming out story that I'd downloaded, but it was interesting. And I thought, I wonder if there are coming out stories for Leathermen, as in, they come out, as gay to begin with,
Yep.
and then later on they come out, to their fetish. And, lo and behold, it turned out that our friend Jack Fritzer had already looked at this. he had he in one of his books, I think it was the Life and Times of Larry Town.
Ah,
Oh my,
okay. Yeah.
I'm going to get it wrong. The Life and Times of the legendary Larry Townsend. Anyway,
Yeah.
I downloaded a sample of one of his books. I think that was the name of it, and he mentioned this whole concept of coming out twice,
Yes.
which apparently Larry Townsend had mentioned in a magazine back in like 1976.
Okay.
So gay men come out twice. They come
Yeah.
out their sexuality and then to their fetish.
Yes.
Uh,
Yeah.
and as we know now, as in IML, sometimes they come out three times or four times.
They
So
can.
there you go. So I just thought, okay, maybe this could be an interesting passion project for me, something that I can do on the side
Yeah.
while I'm continuing to look for work. And so I thought, okay, what I need to do is put a questionnaire together. So I went into Google Forms, um, put some questions together. I wasn't really sure what questions to ask to begin with, but I think I found a questionnaire that someone else had used.
Excuse me.
It was a PDF, and I adapted some of those questions and added in some of my own. But I wanted it to be a fairly short questionnaire. Like some questionnaires are like, 70 or 80 questions. I
Yeah.
thought,
Wait. Yeah. It's way too
I
much.
want I don't want to do that. So I kept it to 30 questions. I didn't talk about leather sex like we've been doing, unfortunately, because I didn't have enough space to do that. So yeah, I put a questionnaire together and then I got onto social media, in particular Instagram, and to a lesser extent Facebook, just looking for likely candidates. And in my mind, what I wanted to do was I wanted to get a wide cross section. Like
Yes.
it would have been so easy for me to just reach out to my friends,
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
Melbourne, in Sydney, some friends that I've got in Europe and North America, but they'd all be, white, they'd all be in their 50s or their
Yeah.
60s.
Yeah.
They would have had a similar narrative arc to my own, because my story is in the book as well, by the way. And I thought, well, that sounds like a boring book to me.
Good point.
So I thought what I want to do is I want Asian leathermen, leathermen who were born and raised in China, Japan, Thailand, Indonesia, and I also want leather men who were married,
Yeah.
had a
Yeah.
wife, had kids, and
Yeah.
then came out as gay, maybe in their 30s or their 40s.
Yeah.
And, then after coming out as gay, they then came out as leathermen. Although some men I've discovered come out as gay and leathermen at the same time,
Yes.
literally
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
It's
Some do.
a dual process. Whereas others, they come out as gay and then they'll come out as a leatherman 10, 20, 30 years later even
Yeah. A little later. Yeah.
happens. Um, so yeah, I wanted a wide cross section, and I didn't just want men who are neurosurgeons who've
I
got lots of money to spend on leather because they are out there. I see their
know. Yeah.
social media now and then. Some of these guys, some of these medical doctors that you've got in the US, um, obviously they've got a fair bit of money because
Yeah.
they get out and about. But I wanted to get, if possible, access other men who are into leather,
Yeah.
who've had to, save their pennies to buy their first pair of chaps or their
Yeah.
first cap. So yeah, and I wanted to not just do Europe and North America. I thought it would be great to get some leather men who are in Asia, in South America, obviously some here in Australia, um, because a lot of people that live in, the Northern Hemisphere, they think Australia is just a desert, like the whole of
Yeah.
Australia.
Yeah.
You know, the number of times you can tell, so you'll be talking to someone and it's like they don't get it. Like
I know.
Melbourne is a
Yeah.
lot like a European city. It's not desert at all.
Yeah.
I still remember, just as an aside, when my grandfather came here from the UK on holidays, he wanted to go for a day trip. He didn't realize how big Australia was. At
Oh,
that
yeah.
stage, I was living in Brisbane. He wanted to go for a day trip to the Great Barrier Reef, and we all laughed at him. Like he was dead serious. And it's
Yeah.
like, it takes a day, just a day, to drive from Brisbane to Townsville. So yeah, getting back to what I was saying before, I wanted to make sure that it was a global directory, that I wasn't just doing Europe or just doing the US. And I did try and get Leathermen in South Africa, but so far I haven't had any luck. I believe they're out there. I
Well,
did reach out to
yeah.
one or two of them on Bluff, but they didn't respond.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, that's fair
Small,
enough.
it's a small community. I'll say that.
Yeah, yeah. Which I thought it would be. I thought, if anything, there might be some leather men in South Africa. I doubt that there would be any in, like the Democratic Republic of the Congo or whatever. But
They
and
exist, but they're very closeted, you know. So,
actually, after I'd reached the number that I wanted in terms of stories, I discovered a group of leather men who live in Indonesia. And I
oh,
thought, who would have thought?
yeah,
Like, I've seen their posts a few times. I'm following them on Instagram, and I'm like, well, maybe in the next edition, I'll pull in some more stories.
there you go. I'm totally in support of that. Totally.
Yeah, I
You
mean,
know,
so yeah, I want to make it a global directory, and I wanted it to be more than just stories. Like, I wanted it to be something that people could use as like a reference manual.
yeah,
Uh, and
good.
like I created an index in the back of the book for that very reason. I thought, okay, let's say I live in Melbourne, Australia. Let's say I'm traveling to Chicago for work. I want to see what's on offer in Chicago.
Yep.
So all I've got to do is go into the index, go to Chicago, and it'll show you, Bluff Chicago and all of the different bars and social groups that are available in Chicago.
Yeah.
Because I thought, well, that's what a lot of, Leathermen will do. They're time
Yes.
poor. They don't want to read the whole book. They'll just
Yeah.
go to the index.
Yes. Yes.
See if whatever destination they're going to has something on offer when it comes to the leather and kink community.
But one of the little blurbs, I guess, that I found fascinating regarding your book is that Graham Clark carries the leather identity torch that we lit 50 years ago in the Leather Bible Drummer magazine.
Yep.
What have you to say to that?
When I approached Jack Fritzer about getting an endorsement for my book,
Yes.
in my mind, I was thinking, okay, so he's the creme de la creme when it comes to leather culture and history. I thought he's not going to even respond to me, but he
Yeah.
did, and he said absolutely. So he wrote that book endorsement. He actually wrote something that's quite a bit longer than that, which I've put in the back of the book
Ah,
because
ah,
you know
yeah.
it it was really well written. So I thought I'll just take that snippet and put it on the back cover of the book because I loved it.
Yeah,
But
I
you
can
know,
see that.
it it put me under a lot of pressure, though, I've got to tell you, because when I read that, I thought, oh my God, game on. It's like,
Well,
I've got to make sure I do a really good job of this.
well, but your the accolades that are coming toward you are very wonderful. I mean, a vetted global directory, 140 plus leather and kink social groups, bars, events, and then also find your leather tribe anywhere, a detailed, easy to use index of 60 plus destinations. I mean, that's incredible. Truly.
It's all I'm going to say is I'm a good researcher. I should have been a private investigator. Like, I've been using Google, I've been using AI to find stuff. I'm like, at times I'm looking for leather bars in, Berlin, in London, in Chicago, in New York. I'm not trying to cover every single city in the world, but that's why I've said it's a carefully curated global directory because I just want to cover off the main leather areas, so to speak, in the
Yes.
world. So obviously Europe, leather is big in Europe. Leather is also big in North America, in the US and Canada, and also Mexico. I've had a number of
Yeah.
leather men
Yeah.
in Mexico reach out to me, and I've had to say to some of them, look, I'm sorry, I've got my full quota of leather men from Mexico. I think
Yeah.
I ended up in the book with two or three leathermen from Mexico,
Good.
uh, one from Argentina, one from Brazil. So yeah, I was pleasantly surprised at how easy it was to find leathermen
Wow.
in Mexico. Who would have
Yeah.
thought? And I've also heard anecdotally um, from a well-known leather influencer that there's quite a strong leather community in, of all places, Brazil.
Yes. That's been coming up over recent years. Yeah.
Yeah, so I thought that's interesting. So in terms of, making my book available on Amazon, I could choose where I wanted it to be available. I ticked Brazil to begin with anyway. I thought, well, I'll give it a go. And now I'm glad that I did because at some point, once the word starts to get out about my book, hopefully I'll make some sales in Brazil. Even though it's in English, hopefully there are some Brazilian leathermen that can read English fairly well.
Some will. Yeah.
But who knows? There might be a Brazilian edition of my book at some point. I
You
don't
never
know.
know. It can happen.
Yeah,
You
I've
know?
already had someone suggest that to me. He his first language is Spanish, and he said you should put this book, have it, translated into Spanish and put out a Spanish edition. I'm like, oh my God.
If the
Maybe.
opportunity comes, I say do it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I would do it because there's so many, leather communities around the world
Yes.
in Spanish-speaking countries. Like in Brazil, not Brazil, Brazil's Portuguese, but the other side of South America, Colombia, Venezuela,
Yeah.
Peru, Chile.
Yes.
They've all got leather and kink social groups. I've seen them.
Yeah.
Some of them I've got listed in my book. And obviously Mexico is Spanish as well.
Yeah.
And then you've got Spain itself.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, yeah. But yeah, I've
Wow.
tried to make the book the kind of book that you can just pick up, time and time again for various reasons. For the index at the back, and also because you want to know if there's a really good kink app
Yeah.
out there. I've even listed some kink apps.
I find fascinating the people that have come forward to share all of this. In some interviews, you can't pull teeth from people. So I was
I know.
really very,
I've had some guys who have point blank said, "No, I'm not interested," because it's too traumatic.
oh,
Um,
yeah,
it was not a good time in my life when I, came out as a leather man. And I'm like, absolutely, I totally understand that. You know where to find me if things change, etc., etc. So, I don't want
yeah,
to cause, mental health issues for them. I've had other guys that have said to me, I'm interested, I'm just wondering, will you have my full name in the book? Will you have a photo of me? And I've said, look, I'll have a photo of you, but just your first name. And if you don't want your first name in there, we could just change it.
yeah,
We can give
yeah,
you a assumed
yeah,
name, just choose the name you want us to use. And in terms of the photo, it can be photo of the back of you, like with a leather vest on or something like that, not the front. So, but the thing
yeah,
is, I haven't really. I mean, I thought that that might be an issue, the fact that I was wanting to include photos,
yeah,
but in the end, it wasn't. I've only had a small number of men who've said, no, I don't want to do this. Um, you know, I've mostly they've said, yep, that's fine. I've said, look, you realize your first name and your photo will go into the book, and they're like, yep, no problem,
yeah,
absolutely,
yeah. For some people, it'd be nothing. Yeah,
yeah.
but in finding your leather tribe, you start the book with a trigger warning mentioning references to homophobia, religious issues, various forms of abuse, substance use, and explicit references to sexuality, kink, and fetish. Now,
I
why
think
did
I
you
was probably being a little bit overzealous.
but why did you choose to include that warning?
Well, I think it's good to have a warning because it could induce trauma in some people. Like,
Yes.
it occurred to me when I read some of the stories, some of them had, made my eyes water. I
Uh,
wasn't crying as such, but some of the stories were sad. Some of them were really uplifting.
yeah,
Um, you know, they didn't start so well, but they got, the story ended up having a happy ending, so to speak.
yeah,
Um, and so I thought, look, I better put a warning in the front cover. And then, I put in anything and everything that I could think of. But in actual fact, um, after the conversation you and I had recently, I did a search through the stories for, homophobia and drugs and all that kind of stuff. And I actually edited that section down a little bit because I thought
um,
it's a bit overwhelming if you read that. It's like,
uh,
ooh, I'm not sure that I want to read these stories. So I think I was being a little bit over careful, a little bit too, conservative,
uh,
because yeah, a lot of those things were not mentioned. There's grief, definitely. There's grief. There's loss.
yeah,
There's one story in there about a guy who his partner passed away. His partner was also a leather man,
mm,
passed away after they'd been together for like 20 years or something. All of a sudden, and he was alone. Like, this leather man that his boyfriend, husband, was his whole life.
yeah,
And then it's like he had to start all over again. He had to start going to the leather bars um,
yeah,
in in the city. And he said that he was lost. Like he just didn't know what to do for a whole year. And,
yeah,
then slowly he realized, look, I have to do something about this. He was with his partner for so long. Their circle of friends had become smaller and smaller over the years until it was basically just the two of them. And now he's got to go out there and, press the flesh, whatever you want to call
yeah,
it, and, create a new social circle. So yeah, I mean that was a bit sad because his partner passed away um,
yeah,
suddenly, I think it was, and there was someone else whose partner passed away from AIDS. So AIDS got mentioned.
Yeah.
Uh,
You'd have to in a book like that. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. Um, so yeah, there are some, stories that are, they've got a happy beginning, a happy middle, and a happy ending. There's no, darkness in there whatsoever. Whereas others, there was one guy, I think he said something about his mother was an alcoholic and
Mm.
his father was domestically abusing his mother or something.
Oh
And I thought,
God. Yeah.
that's not good.
Uh,
So yeah, there are some really interesting stories in there, and I've gone out of my way to make sure they're all different. I did
yeah.
get some stories um, that were similar to other stories, and I thought, well, I don't want to include those because it's like we're repeating ourselves here.
Yeah.
So, so look, at the end of the day, I'm still looking for stories.
Well,
Even though we've now reached 23, you know, who knows if some really interesting stories come my way from leathermen who live in South Africa, Indonesia, Iceland. I haven't seen any leathermen from Iceland. I'd love a
oh
leatherman.
hell. I mean, I know bears from Iceland. Maybe I don't know if they're maybe a little too far off your
Look,
radar, but
if you know someone in Iceland who's a leather bear, as in they do a bit of both, possibly,
I can
we'll,
ask.
we'll we'll take that off air and we'll talk about
Yeah.
that.
Um,
But yeah, so I want the book to, for you to not necessarily read it from beginning to end,
mhm.
cover to cover, just to jump in and, read the bits that are of interest to you, which might be the index at the back, or it might be the story that I did on, sex and play in leather spaces and that kind of thing. Um,
But
so yeah.
undoubtedly, and you've even alluded to this, undoubtedly, there are going to be a lot of people who were not included in this book. And once they see the success of it, they see who was included, they're going to want to be included in the future.
Yes.
Now, how are you going to manage that?
I was thinking about that the other day because I've had someone recently who was stalking me, basically,
Mm.
uh, was ringing me over and over, and I had to block this person on
Mm.
Instagram. And I said to him a number of times, I said, "Look, I'm really sorry, but you know, the book is full. That's
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Nothing against you personally." So yeah, and I've had a couple of others that um, who did the survey who were a bit disappointed that they were not in the book, and I had to say to them exactly what I said to this other guy. You know, I was looking for variety, and some of the stories were quite similar,
Yeah,
and I was trying to avoid that.
yeah.
So I wanted the stories to be unique, and they're all unique. I don't think any of the stories that are in there now are in any way similar. Um, I'm still looking for, by the way, the story of a trans person. Like, I'd love to find a leather man who may have started life as a female and then has,
There,
changed.
there is someone I think in Melbourne I interviewed.
Yeah.
Um, let me let me look him up. Okay.
The thing is, I've got my quota in Melbourne. I was
Oh,
kind of hoping for someone OS, someone overseas. I did approach someone on Instagram who was quite all upfront about, transitioning and
mhm.
becoming a leatherman. But in the end, he decided not to do the survey. I sent him the link and I followed up a couple of weeks later, asked him how it was going. And, you know, I didn't get any response. So I thought, well, no response is a response, basically. In other words, I'm not interested after all. I
Yeah.
changed my mind. But that's the thing in the survey as well. I did say, because I thought, I don't want someone doing the survey who doesn't identify as a Leatherman. So I think the very first question, or maybe the second question is, do you identify as a Leatherman? Because I want them to actually say that they do. They've got to say yes, to then proceed and
Uh,
answer the rest of the questions. If they say no, then they can't do the survey. And I'm also aware of the fact that there are leather men who are not gay. So this book,
yeah,
it's about gay leather men. I've said gay leather men
yeah.
intentionally
There's
because I know there are leather men and leather women who are straight who
yeah.
play with each other. You know, leather man, leather woman play together. But you know, so that's a different book, maybe. Who knows?
But I've got as I'm hearing you, I know someone who's trans female to male, and he's in Florida. I mean, if you like, I can send him a message.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
All right. Yeah, I can do that.
Um,
Um,
was the you know I'm bringing out the soft cover later this year. I'm looking at July. Oh, probably more like August, to be honest. So
that's
July,
near.
August.
Yeah,
Yeah. Um, but because I've already done the book as a PDF and then as an EPUB, the content's there. So it's not a big ask for me to come up with the soft cover edition. I can just kind of like use almost all of the content in the PDF, for example, but
yeah.
just remove all the hyperlinks because the PDF, there are hyperlinks everywhere.
Uh,
Because
uh,
obviously, in a softcover edition, those hyperlinks are not going to work.
yeah. But I mean, and if it was something you might want to use in the future, even,
Yeah.
he might be worthwhile.
Oh,
But
absolutely. I mean, I'm hoping that the book will end up being well received once I really start to promote it. And I know that there are some Leathermen out there that are interested in the book, but they're waiting for the paperback to come
yeah,
out.
yeah,
You know, I know a guy here in Australia who has told me as much. You know, he lives here in Melbourne and he's like, as soon as the soft cover edition comes out, I'm going to buy a copy. So, yeah. So yeah, in terms of, surveys, I'm still interested, but I'm being very, very careful not to replicate the stories that are already in
yeah.
there
And you can
because
even just let me know if you want his contact information sometime later. That's fine
yeah,
too. But how are you going to promote this?
that's the $64 million question. That's why I'm here with you. Because I'm very much conscious of the fact that I don't have the funds to be able to travel to IML or
Yeah,
to be able to go to Fetish, Folsom in Berlin, and so on and so
yeah,
forth.
yeah,
It's just too expensive.
yeah,
So I'm having to promote the book using social media mostly. But also, I'm hoping, for example, the Laird Hotel, where I discovered leather,
oh,
would make the perfect backdrop for a launch when they have AWOL, a week of leather in August. So I did chat to the owner earlier this year, a couple of months ago now, and he was like, "Yep, absolutely."
cool.
So I
Excellent.
want to do that, but I
Excellent.
also want to get into bookshops as well. So
Yes.
there's a bookshop here in Melbourne, which you may have heard of, called Hares and Hyenas. They've been
Yes.
around for a long time, and I've been in contact with the owner, and he actually reached out to me recently. He's like, "Oh, how's the soft cover going?" So he's still interested in, including my book in the bookstore. They've got a bookstore at the Pride Centre in St Kilda. So what I'll probably do is I'll probably, try and get into various bookstores, both here in Melbourne and also elsewhere.
Yeah.
There's a couple that are on my radar in Sydney and Brisbane. And also, I've put a list together that I've saved in my browser of all of these bookstores, the gay and lesbian bookstores overseas, like Gay's the Word, for example, in London. You know that one?
Yep. Yep.
Um, there's a very well-known one in Manchester that's very gay friendly as well that I'm also going to try and get the book into. So it'll be about getting the book into these bookstores, but also using social media. So getting onto podcasts. So if
Yeah.
you know of any podcasts, by all means let me know because I
I'll have
don't
to
know
think
what I
about it.
don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah, offhand. Yeah.
I've sent a few emails already, but that one that I mentioned to you the other day, dads and daddies. But they seem to mostly go for American guests, and
Doesn't
so I
mean that
thought,
they would
well,
only. Yeah.
yeah. But anyway, I sent them an email, and then I sent a follow-up email. So maybe I'll wait until the book has actually been published as a
Yeah.
soft cover
Yeah.
to then approach them and say, look, my soft cover has just been published. It's where are they? Oh, they're in New York. It's available in New York at these bookstores. I'm wondering if you would be able to help me to promote it by having me come on your show as a guest, blah, blah, blah. So yeah, mostly I'm self-publishing the book. So
Hmm.
I'll be promoting it by way of social media and also, podcasts and interviews, that kind of thing.
Cool.
If you've got any suggestions, I'm a newbie to all of this. But like I said to you the other day, I've learned a lot about publishing and I've learned a lot about social media over the course of the last 8 to 10 months.
But we're coming up on a little bit of time, so I want to make sure I get these last two questions with you. Okay.
Okay.
How would you like to be remembered by the community?
Oh, how would I like to be remembered? Um, as someone who it was worth getting to know, someone who gave back to the community, someone who has a legacy that's worth looking at. Because
Yeah.
that's why I'm doing this. I'm
Yeah.
I'm not doing it first and foremost to make money. A few guys have looked at me a bit sheepishly and said, "Why are you doing this?" As if I get the feeling that they think I'm doing this for all the wrong reasons. I'm not. I'm doing it because I've enjoyed wearing leather over the last, I don't know, 35, 40 years.
Yeah.
Um, and, I want to give back and I want to celebrate the voices of those that have come before.
Yeah.
So, for example, one of the guys in the book, he was born in 1948. I'm
Hmm.
like, wow, we've got
Yeah.
to get his story. So, you know,
There are a
I
few.
put him
Yeah.
in the book. That's Elliot, I think his name is. He's like the second last story from memory. Good story, good story. He lives in New York. Um, so yeah, I wanted to celebrate our history. So yeah, I want to be remembered for bringing out this book, if nothing else, and for people saying that it's an amazing book. It's a book that you need to read.
What's the biggest misconception about you?
That's what I started talking about before.
Yes.
I get it all the time on Scruff. Like, guys will assume because of the title that I'm using, Oz Leather Daddy,
Yeah.
they get confused. They conflate Dom with Daddy. Like,
Yeah.
and
Believe
that's
me.
just crazy. They need to do their research. So I get these messages, "Hey, Daddy," and they want me to beat them up. Like, I get that regularly, and I'm like, because I'm into leather, they assume there's this misconception that
Right.
because you're into leather, you want to beat people up, you want to torture them, you want to hurt them, and that's the furthest from the truth. Like, I couldn't imagine doing that. If someone what did want me to like whip them, for example, as a play thing, absolutely, I would give it a go. But I, that's not my nature. Like, that's just not me at all. So I'm not a dom top. I'm actually verse, so I top now and then, but I'm quite happy bottoming as well. Just depends on the situation. I think they call that a switch nowadays,
Yeah.
don't they?
Yeah. It depends. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm a switch, um, and I'm not into the heavy leather stuff that we talked about before. I'm kind of middle of the road. I have some kinks, but not. I don't like seeing blood, basically.
Well, Graham Clark, author, Leatherman, title holder, all from down under. Thank you for a fantastic interview. on Inside Leather History of Fireside Chat. And when this book becomes very successful, we'll talk some more. How about that?
Absolutely. Yeah, let's do it.